Right, so I have the motherboard back out again because we're going to do a delid on it. My other thing was successful. This does in fact obviously cool the VRMs, and it kept the heat away from, or being transferred over into the heat spreaders of the RAM, and my stability was good. I actually managed to get even more of a RAM overclock on it. Not in terms of frequency, I didn't really play around with that. Just in terms of secondaries and tertiaries, they're a lot tighter, and that improved the performance quite a lot. And we even got a higher overclock on the mesh. And then I was working on the cores, and yeah, they came to the big problem with this, and that's that they use thermal paste under the IHS of this, so it was thermal throttling anyway. Didn't really take any before temps of it doing it because I don't really think there's any point. It's 105C thermal throttle, so it's as high as it goes. So yeah, we're going to be doing the delid today, or tonight rather, and hopefully that all goes to plan, because I don't really have the greatest tool in the world for this. I mean, from what I've seen of it, I've never delided X299 before. My previous X299 CPU was the soldered version of it, the 9920X. So no, I didn't ever delid that one. What I do have though is this, which has been modified for a few other purposes before. It was originally actually, I think, for Ivy Bridge, I believe. But yeah, I see everyone online, they're using the debour tool, but that's not going to exactly be easy to find, as this CPU isn't exactly, like I said, it's not new on the market, so finding one of those, you're basically going to be, don't sell it anymore as far as I know. I could be wrong there. I didn't really look that hard, but because I figured I'd be probably trying to find a used one at that point anyway. But yeah, anyway, I haven't taken this out yet, but on my 6950X, which is the same, roughly the same size as this, does fit in this slot here. So we'll see if I can make all this line up and be able to get a delid on it. I did have a look on the internet at pretty much what it looks like under the IHS to see what capacitors and the resistors, or what other SMDs are mounted under there that I'd have to avoid. So I'm pretty sure I've got a good idea of how I'm going to go about this. It is a dual layer PCB sort of design. I'll show a picture of it up on screen. And there's quite a lot of silicon, so yeah, I'm imagining this is going to be kind of a pain in the ass, but we'll see, because the silicon could be quite old and dried up, so it might just fall straight off anyway, but who knows, we'll see. Oh, there we go, I got a little sitting in my vise here. Haven't actually tightened anything up yet, but pretty much from what I could see online is that at the top here is where you've got basically a row of SMDs that go this way. So you basically want to push that way so that you don't wipe all those off. We probably won't be able to really do this on camera, sadly, and well, if this fails, well, you won't be seeing this video for a while, because it'll be in the market for a new CPU. Alright, so as you can see, I have the CPU successfully delided, and this up here is what I was talking about. Is I really have to mess with these camera settings a bit. I only just got this camera, so you're just gonna have to sort of bear with me. But yeah, look, those SMDs up there is what I was talking about, and that's why you want to be pushing that way, because if you come, god damn, hang on, let me sort this out. Yeah, so basically if you push this way, you would have wiped all of these off. And what I did actually end up doing was just to give it a bit of assist. Probably didn't really need it, but I nipped these bits here with a razor blade, just to help the amount of force it would require to, I guess there's quite a fair bit of silicon here, but honestly it's not that bad delidding these, honestly, compared to anything that's soldered. This is a walk in the park, honestly. But yeah, so I have complete confidence that this CPU will still work. So I guess we'll just get this cleaned up and get this thing cleaned up, and then we'll put some liquid metal on this thing and put it all back together, I guess. Yeah, also on another little note here, you can see how look, just how dry that thermal paste is, and you know, it's I mean, it was never great to begin with, but this was particularly bad as far as thermals go. Like I said, I actually haven't owned X299 that wasn't soldered before, so I'm not 100% sure on what you know, the thermals should be like, but just based on you know, what other people were saying they got, you know, without a D-lid on theirs compared to mine. Mine was obviously awful, but like I said, you know, it's I mean, what year do these come out in? These are like 7th gen, so you know, they're like what, 5, 6 odd years old now. So yeah, and I'm sure whoever owned this previously had it also probably thermal throttling, so that probably doesn't help. Yeah, just been removing the excess silicon that's left over from that and the IHS. And this is actually a good way you can test if you've got gonna have contact. Just put like, I put like the thinnest smear just off the end of a Q-tip of thermal paste onto the IHS and just attach it and see if it smears onto there. And that's just one way you can see if it's you know, you've removed enough to where it's your liquid metal is going to actually make contact, because remember, your liquid metal layer is going to be quite thin. Alright, there we go, that's fully prepped CPU there. Just got a bit of the old nail polish on the SMDs there just to protect them in case of a liquid metal spill. Probably won't happen. I'm pretty confident with my skills with liquid metal, although honestly it's really not that difficult to not make a mess of it. But yeah, I just like to do it as a little, I guess, like a little added precaution, I guess. This doesn't hurt. Alright, so there is my liquid metal application. I do both sides. It's, yeah, look, honestly on camera it looks like there's a lot more on there than what there actually is, so yeah, you really only need like a thin layer. I'll probably, like when I get a tripod and stuff, I'll do this on another CPU and I'll show you roughly how much I use, because honestly, yeah, right there, that looks like there's tons on there, but there's really not. Alright, so I got the computer all back together after the delid, and well, obviously it is working because I'm still making this video. Yeah, I could have got another CPU in the time it's taken for part 3 to come out. I've sort of tried to space them out a little bit, not that it really matters. But anyway, on to benchmarks. So I didn't want to just run just synthetics. I wanted to run some real world stuff and do some stuff that was actually relevant to the kind of workloads I actually do on this computer. So I've come up with this little benchmark here. So this is a snippet taken from an old Modern Warfare 3 edit that I was working on that I didn't finish. So this is just like a part of it anyway. It goes for about 55 seconds. And I've got this little watermark saying Onslaught benchmark or whatever. So it's always going to be the exact same one. And if we go into here, I've got this profile here made, and so this way it's always going to be using the exact same render template and the exact same piece of video that it's going to be rendering. It's not like that intensive. You see, it's not got like a lot of layers or anything. This is just some clips shoved together. It's got a bit of slow motion and whatnot in there, and it's got this watermark over it. So nothing crazy, but it will give us like a pretty consistent thing to compare results to when I've done all this overclocking and stuff to see how much faster it is. And don't worry, I'll throw some Cinebench and probably some Geekbench 6 in there as well, so we can compare. As usual, I'll be data logging with hardware info, and I'll probably track hottest core, average temperature across the cores, CPU package temperature, and the wattage. As for the water temperature, I'm just going to do every single test starting at 34C water temperature, because it's what it's sort of idles around, to be honest. Uh, I haven't actually done anything to improve the temperatures on the water yet, so it's not something I'm actually trying to track when I add in the other radiators and fix up that water cooling loop. Then we can compare the temperatures, knowing that the average water temperature at idle for me now is sort of sitting around 34°C, and obviously when it goes under load, that starts picking up. But basically, I'm just going to start every single test from 34°C water temperature to maintain some sort of consistency. And as for the fan profile, that's all like locked in place, so that's going to be exactly the same every time, regardless of which overclock settings I'm running. So I'm basically just going to compare stock with the XMP enabled to it now Delid with all this tuning. And now, why am I choosing stock with XMP enabled? Well, because overclocking the core any further than stock before used to just result in it pretty much throttling. You couldn't really, as far as an all-core workload, which is what this is going to be when it's rendering anyway, it's going to be an all-core workload. I wouldn't really be able to get that much higher anyway. I mean, granted, Vegas isn't as intensive when rendering as, say, like your Cinebenches and your other synthetics. But still, you know, that's just what I've decided to go with anyway, just to show how much improvement we've got from all these like mods that we've sort of done. Because realistically, like I said before, I could probably get another 100 or maybe 200 megahertz more out of it before we throttled anyway. So, and personally, I wouldn't run my system 24/7 throttling. I'm not happy with something like that. I don't find that to be acceptable, as I know some people do. Yeah, look, I like my temperatures to stay, probably under 85 realistically, and while rendering, like, I would probably consider it acceptable if it hit 80. That's fine. And under synthetics, if it hit like 90. For a 24/7 overclock anyway, not going for the absolute maximum we can get. That's what this system is. It's my daily, so we're not going for the absolute max here. We're going for something that's going to work it's going to work all the time for me. So yeah, I guess I'll see you once I collect all the data and show you the results. So I've gone ahead and I've grabbed the random fan that I had out the back from the pile, and I've put it here. I've set it up actually so it's actually intaking from the back here and pushing this way for now. So I'll just give this a try, because what I noticed before is there's still kind of a hot pocket forming around here just from the heat coming off of this giant monoblock and stuff like that. And that's actually my RAM tune at the moment is very stable, but I'm wondering if we can get a little bit more, if we can keep it a bit cooler by bringing some air across here and getting rid of that hot spot and stopping it from soaking into the heat spreaders of the RAM. Also, I guess I'm hoping that it will bring some air across this side, because this side here, these DIMMs here aren't getting much airflow. Those ones there are fine because they get cooled by that as air passes along here. But those ones over there in the corner, sitting there where that hot pocket tends to form, I'm just wondering if this will help with that issue. So we're going to do a bit of testing here. I'm going to then flip it around and run it in exhaust mode. So my train of thought here is in intake mode, what will happen is obviously it will bring fresh air in and help push that hot pocket of air up and into the radiator, because it is quite a large case. So I guess the air coming across there, when you're not, obviously if I'm blasting the fans, the hot pocket goes away, but I want this to run quiet, so I don't want to go blasting the fans. So I'm hoping that will help push it up into there. The other train of thought obviously is to run it in the conventional way, which is as an exhaust, and that will help pull the air across here and create more air pressure this way, so that it can pull that hot pocket out through that exhaust fan, which is probably better because then it's not pushing it up through my radiator, further making my water temperature problem worse. Actually, at the moment it's fine because it's just sitting here at an idle, and I just switched it back on after installing that fan. But yeah, this does get really hot, and you see, no, it's not plumbed up. But that's for a future video when I deal with all that stuff, and that's it. Right, so as you can see, we've been running mem test now for 17.5 minutes. So that's enough time to, to warm things up in there and see what sort of difference we made here. I notice also we've dropped about 3 odd C off of the actual water temperature. It's quite cool in this room right now, so our water temperatures aren't atrocious like they often are. But in here though, if I put my hand here and just feel like there's no noticeable hot pocket here anymore. And obviously, I don't know if I mentioned it in the other take I did before I installed the fan and all that. That obviously I don't have like any thermal imaging camera or anything like that. That would be nice to actually see what sort of exact differences we're getting. But I feel like you don't need that. You can just, before I could just feel that there was a lot of heat just sitting in a pocket there and not being moved out of the case. So now just by putting that there, and we're only running it at see here, we're running it at 720 RPM, so we're not even running it that fast, to be honest with you. And it's made such a big improvement there. And as you see by the memory test so far, we've got no errors on it, so that's always a good sign. Although it wasn't actually erroring with these. I was running the same settings before and it wasn't erroring either, but I wonder if we can actually run some of our timings a little bit tighter now, because I can't feel any heat just pulling around the dims there. So what I will do now is I think I'll flip the fan around and run it in exhaust mode and see what sort of difference that makes, if any at all. But like I said before, my kind of train of thought there is by running it in exhaust, and it's kind of competing with this in terms of exhausting, although there is heat coming off of the GPU still, even though it is idle. Like just running 3 monitors with high refresh rate, it does still pull some wattage out of it. And actually now it's actually quite a lot better. Before there was still quite a bit of warmth coming off of that. But yeah, obviously by running this in exhaust would help take that heat out of there. But when we run a water-cooled GPU, that won't be as much of an issue. Although, having said that, if any of you have ever ran a water-cooled GPU, you'll still know that radiant heat still does come off of it under load. But at idle, that should basically be not a problem anymore. Yeah, water temperatures went up to 37, which is odd. You would think it'd be a bit better now I've opened the door, but oh, I guess there was still some more hadn't quite reached its full equilibrium yet. But yeah, I'll flip the fan around and see what happens. Alright, so I've done the exact same thing, just got the fan reversed around now, and well, as it turns out, it doesn't really make any difference which way you have the fan. It's just a matter of having the fan there, I guess. What do you know, having an extra fan helps with the airflow and cooling. Shocker. I know, see, water temps are even hanging around the same. It's still better than what it was without the fan, and the hotspot there has been removed. So I think I'll definitely order another fan to go here to match with the others. Although I don't think, these are Silverstone Airblazer 120Rs, I believe. I don't think they make a 140 version of it, so this is it's around 140, so it fits a 120 slot, but it's a 140mm fan basically. It was off of a something or other cooler from freaking way back when. And I had it, and I decided just to shove it there because it was a 140. And it's actually the only 140mm fan I have. Everything else is 120. I mean, obviously it does fit both 120 and 140 in that slot, it doesn't matter, but I just think, a 140 there would be nice. It just fills out the space a bit better. Yeah, but if I can't find something that looks similar to these in terms of the colors and everything, then I'll just get a 120 there. It doesn't really matter, honestly. But yeah, pretty happy with that result. So I'm gonna keep tuning and see if we can lower some timings a little bit, and see what sort of results that gets us. So I'm back again here, and I've created a PowerPoint here with some graphs so that you can see the results in a easy to read sort of format. So we've got the stock with XMP enabled here in blue, and the overclock version in orange. At least I think it's orange. I am very colorblind, so the one that's not blue is the overclock version. I'm just going to say it like that. to resolve any confusion if I'm wrong. So we've got here the peak power consumption. So these are basically what it's spiked to. Same with core max. This is the hottest core, and that's the hottest that it got. And the same with core average. So this is the average of the hottest temperatures recorded on each core. So it's not the average. This isn't like average power consumption throughout the entire run, and this isn't average temperature throughout the entire run either. I was only really caring about what it spiked to, I guess, because it's showing basically like how efficiently our cooling system can handle those spikes. So let's get on to the results, I suppose. So we've got here render time. This is in seconds, because obviously putting minutes and seconds into a graph doesn't really work as well. You get a kind of cleaner look when you do it like this. So anyway, we went from 82 seconds down to 67 with our overclock. As you can see here, I've written the percentages. So that was a 18.29% decrease in render time at a cost of 48.7% increase in power draw, and subsequently our temperatures have increased as a result of this increased power draw. Now, you're probably thinking, well, 48.7% increase in power for 18.3% decrease in render time, that's not, there's quite a lot more power in relation to the amount of performance that you gain. And this kind of scaling is pretty typical of overclocking. You will always find with any kind of overclock that your power will go up exponentially higher in relation to the performance gain. And this becomes especially true the further you push an overclock, especially as you get right to the limits of the silicon and where that will go. Now, on these X299 high core count sort of CPUs, you don't really run into silicon limits. You run into thermal limits first, because I think, what am I running on this? The voltage isn't very high. Like, we're nowhere near the sort of voltages that would be considered a safe daily voltage for the CPU anyway. Like, we're nowhere near close to any kind of voltage that would potentially degrade the CPU, because you're just not going to be able to run those higher voltages anyway. Like, basically, like, I would think if I had the radiators and everything how I wanted it all set up, and it was nice and cool in the room, and we had nice cold water in there, like, really, what could you cool? Like 1.18, 1.2 volts? Like 1.2 volts would be probably still throttling. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we're not going to be getting anywhere near close to like 1.35, 1.4. Nothing like that. You're going to need a more exotic cooling solution to be able to run something like that. Yeah, we could probably optimize this, so we could probably have this power draw be lower in relation to this if we were to leave our mesh and our RAM as stock, basically, because the Sony Vegas render probably doesn't really give a shit, or it definitely doesn't give a shit about the mesh clock. And as far as memory, as long as it's not completely trash, it probably doesn't really care either, kind of like Cinebench in that way. Speaking of Cinebench, though, let's move on to those results. So we see quite a little bit more in terms of performance gain. So we went from here like 18.3% performance gain to 21%. I know I've written like negative. It's just because like lower score is better in this case, whereas in this case like higher score is better. So we went from a 74.77 up to a 90.48. And once again, we could optimize this better by not overclocking the mesh and the memory and just focusing on the cores. And I say that because by overclocking the mesh, our power draw is quite a lot higher doing so. And in turn, that's going to create more heat. So we could potentially get more performance out of our cores. Essentially, we could go up probably a couple of speed bins if we didn't do that. But like I said, this is my daily system, and I do care about that. I've got to use this computer. It's not just for rendering, and I like the responsiveness of having tuned RAM and the mesh being overclocked. It feels a lot nicer to use. The whole system's a lot more responsive. And in other tasks which you'll see after, it does benefit us. So yeah, just obviously Cinebench and Vegas Render doesn't really care about that. But yeah, as you see Cinebench, yeah, we did pull 322 watts from it, so quite a lot compared to stock at 210. And comparing from before, we had a 48.7% increase in power for this much performance. Well, this one, we had even more power draw, but also technically even more performance in relation to the stock. I guess core temperatures, there's nothing really to say about this. Obviously, it follows suit with how much power is getting pulled. That's pretty standard there. Uh, this is, by the way, 4.3 all core. So I've got it set up. It is 4.5 into 4 cores, and I think 4.4 into 8, and then into an all core it's 4.3. And that results in our cores getting to 85. Mind you, this is with the water not heat soaked. So once the water starts to heat soak, this does start to get up into the low 90s. But when we have that other radiator on there, that won't be the case, and I'll probably run 4.4 all core. Moving on. So Geekbench 6. You see, even better scaling again here. Especially with the power draw. Although these numbers here, well, okay, this maybe not so much. This here can be taken with a bit of a grain of salt because there's only like Geekbench 6 runs like a multitude of different tests, and not all of them pull a lot. Actually, most of them don't actually pull that much power. There's like a couple in there that actually really hit it hard and pull this full 274 and 186 watts, respectively. Most of them, it's sitting around like 100, and that was kind of. It was around the same wattage, whether it was stock or overclocked in that case, to be honest with you. And the same with because some of the tests are even single threaded, so the total power consumption isn't actually that high in general. But and the same with our core temps. But then again, this power draw is lower, and obviously once again our maximum core temps and the average core temps reflect that as well. But yeah, as I see, we hit a 22.15% increase, and this is because Geekbench 6 does care about what we've done with the memory and the mesh. Now, mind you, I am not running any faster frequency over the XMP. The XMP is also 3600 megahertz, and I'm also running 3600 megahertz. So just keep that in mind. The only thing I've done is tuned secondaries and tertiaries and overclocked the mesh. Actually, on the XMP tune, I actually had overclocked mesh on it too. I just remember because I just reloaded that profile. That profile also had overclocked mesh on it too. So, yeah, at least I think it did. I'm going to double check that, and I will. There'll be like a little thing that will pop up here in editing, verifying whether I'm completely wrong about that or not. I know the one thing I did do with the XMP profile, however, is just turn back down the VCCSA voltage, because when you enable when you enable XMP on this board, it just immediately cranks the VCCSA to 1.35. And as you'll see, because I'm going to make like a bit of like a X299 overclocking guide, VCCSA actually doesn't do anything for you on X299. Unless you're on like one of those like 4-core or whatever KB Lake things, then I think it still does. But on the high core count ones anyway, like the real X299 CPUs, it doesn't care at all about VCCSA. I don't even think it even does anything at all. So I usually just set it to 1.1. But yeah, okay, and also only a 10.4% increase in single threaded performance, and the reason for that will be because the stock profile actually clocks to 4.2 in single thread. So yeah, mine obviously does 4.5, but that depends if the way that I should have checked this during the run, the way the thread scheduler handled it, if it actually boosted to 4.5 during those single threaded workloads, or if it like kept them all at 4.3. But I kind of feel like for a 10% increase, it probably did boost up because realistic 100 megahertz probably wouldn't give you 10%. At least I don't think. I mean, I could sit there and calculate, what sort of percentage difference between 4500 and 4200 is, but yeah, look, I can't be bothered doing that right now. So yeah, that's some interesting results there, that's for sure. And I'm pretty happy with that kind of gain. And obviously we're not done with this. We can see even better results, and this will give us some results to compare to again, because obviously these are going to be saved away. And when we do some more mods to this machine and stuff, and we're able to push the overclocks higher, which to be fair, like yeah, we still do have quite a fair bit of thermal headroom. Like even here, like we only hit 85, but like I said, this is a burst workload, and right now the water temperatures suffer under sustained workloads because our radiator isn't really able to effectively keep up, unless of course we blast the fans. And being my daily system once again, I don't want fans blasting. Like this has to be, and I'm sure a lot of people would agree with that too. That I want it to be a nice, usable experience. I guess I don't want to sit there listening to a fan blasting at 2000 RPM in my ear. Oh, it's not fun. I mean, yeah, like some of my gaming PCs have definitely been a bit like that, and that's because I'm always wearing headphones, so I didn't care as much. But with this, that's not always the case. Sometimes you're just sitting there, just editing a video, and all you can hear in the background is that whirring, or if I'm talking like this, you're going to hear it in the microphone. It's going to be annoying. Anyway, that's enough about the noise aspect of it. But yeah, that's my reasoning for not wanting to actually push it higher at the moment, is basically because this is just going to keep getting higher and higher as the water temperature increases.